Learning jazz songs is important, and learning jazz songs that are appropriate for the level that you're at is even more important. So I made the mistake earlier on in my career of learning jazz songs that were either too difficult for the level that I was at the time, or just picking random jazz songs that probably didn't have too much in common. So that means they probably had different chord progressions or they were in different keys. So I couldn't really make the connection and understand what I was doing deeply. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 jazz standards that develop core skills. With these skills, you can play about 80% of the jazz repertoire that's out there. So we've got things like a 2-5-1 progression in a major key, a minor 2-5-1, turn around. We're going to look at the blues, and we're even going to explore different styles such as bossa nova. So here are the 5 standards that you've got to learn as a jazz beginner. The first one is going to be Autumn Leaves. So the nice thing about Autumn Leaves is that it uses both the major 2-5-1 progression and the minor 2-5-1 progression. And these two progressions are arguably the most used in jazz. So if we have a look at the lead sheet for Autumn Leaves here, this is in the key of B flat. And it alternates between key of B flat and the key of G minor. And G minor is the relative of B flat. Right, so that's just a little bit of theory, but if I look at the first 3 measures of this song, that's basically a 2-5-1 progression in the key of B flat. So the chords are C minor 7, F7, and then B flat 7, B flat major 7. Okay, that is a 2-5-1 progression in the key of B flat. So I'll show you those chords slowly. So the C minor 7 is C, E flat, G, and B flat. And I'm just going to play the bass note in my left hand. So that's 2. And then when I want to go to chord 5 is really F7, F, A, C, E flat. But I'm going to play an inversion of that. So I'm going to take the C and E flat down here and just play it like this. So there's my 2, C minor 7. There's my 5, F7. And then 1 is B flat major 7. And my notes are B flat, D, F, and A. So you can play it like this. If you want something maybe that sounds a bit jazzier as far as voicing, you can add a C to that chord. Okay, so here's the 2-5-1 progression. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so those 3 measures are basically a 2-5-1 progression. So let's look at the places where we find it. So we definitely find it in those first 3 measures, but we also have it right here. It's the same C minor 7 to F7 to B flat major 7, and then here it is again, C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7. Okay, so we've got that 2-5-1 progression in a major key, which is B flat major. This here is also a 2-5-1 progression, but in a slightly different key. This F minor 7 to B7 to E flat major 7, that is a 2-5-1 in the key of E flat. Okay, so we've got that 2-5-1 progression, at least in 2 different keys, key of B flat major and key of E flat major. Okay, so here's that 2-5-1 progression one more time in the key of B flat. Okay, and then we said we also had it in the key of E flat, which is F minor 7 to B flat 7 to E flat 7. So we're going to play that. I mean to E flat major 7, sorry. So here's that, here are those 2 measures again. So F minor 7 to B flat 7 to E flat major 7. Okay, and I've jazzed it up again by adding that, we call it a 9th. Okay, but you could play it like this. Okay, whichever you prefer. All right, so that's the first chord progression that we've got in Autumn Leaves. And here's the second one. So that's a 2-5-1 in a major key. We've also got a 2-5-1, but this time in a minor key. So if we look at this measure here, our chords are A minor 7 flat 5 to D7 and then to G minor. That's a 2-5-1 in the key of G minor. Okay, so here's G minor. The 2 in G minor is A minor 7 flat 5, sometimes just known as A half diminished. So this is 2. And then my 5 is D7. I'm actually going to play G minor 6 just to jazz things up a little bit. Okay, so there's my 2 again. There's 5, 1. So this is a 2-5-1 progression, but this time in a minor key. Okay, so often in a minor key, your 2 is a half diminished, your 7th is a dominant 7th, and then your your 1 is a minor chord. You can either play a minor 7 or a minor 6. Okay, so let's see how many times we come across that 2-5-1 in a minor key. So we've got it over here in measure 5. So A minor 7 flat 5 to D7 to G minor. Okay, this one we know is a 2-5-1 in the key of B flat. We've already done that. But here it is again in G minor. A half diminished to D7 to G minor 7. And then it appears again over here. There's that 2-5-1 again in the key of G minor. And let's see. Here it is again. A minor 7 flat 5 to D7 to G minor 7. But then there's quick changes. By the way, this little section here is actually a 2-5-1 in a major key. So this G minor actually has 2 functions. So it's the 1 when we're going 2-5-1. But then in that same measure, this G minor also becomes the 2 in the key of F. So actually this measure here is a 2-5 in the key of F. Okay, so it's a G minor 7 going to C7. It doesn't really go to F, it goes to F minor. So that F now functions as 2 in the key of E flat. Oh, and here comes that minor 2-5-1 again. So A minor 7 to D7 to G minor 7. So actually, if we analyze the entire piece, we'll find that it's always going to be either a major 2-5-1 or a minor 2-5-1. There's only one chord which is played and it's kind of in isolation, okay? And that's just a 4 chord, okay? Everything else is 2-5-1 except for that 4 chord which comes in every now and then. Right, so let's analyze the entire tune. Right, so in fact I'm gonna do this. Right, so da 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 2, then 5, and da da 1. We're in the key of B flat. Here's that 4 chord, that E flat major 7. But then once we've played the 4 chord, we play a 2-5-1 in the key of G minor. 2, 3, 4. Then the whole thing's repeated. Back to the key of B flat. Here's a 2-5-1. Here's chord 4. Here's 2-5-1 in the key of G minor. And that's the entire A section. Let's play the B section. It starts with a 2-5-1 in G minor. That's 2-5-1. And then I go to the key of B flat and play a 2-5-1, major 2-5. Here's my 4. To the key of G minor, 2, then 5. And then 2-5 in the key of F. 2-5-1 in the key of E flat, and then 2-5-1 in the key of G minor. Okay, so once you understand the composition in this way, that enables you to now play it freely. So I'm just going to play the song so that you know what Autumn Fields actually sounds like and feels like. Although I've got this lead sheet here, I will play mostly the notes that are written, but I'm going to play the melody quite freely. Okay, so I'll treat it rhythmically with freedom. Okay, so here it is. 2. so forth, right? So you can begin to have fun playing around with those 2-5-1 progressions, the major 2-5-1 and the minor 2-5-1. Now you might be wondering, well, when I'm improvising, what am I doing? So I'm basically speaking the language of jazz using techniques that I've learned from all over the place, mostly from jazz recordings. And I have written some of these ideas down that I took from jazz recordings and put them into this PDF here, which is available for download for free. I'm just going to put the link in the description, so you can check that out so that you can use those ideas as a starting point on which to do your own improvisation, okay, or to explore your own ideas. I mean, in that PDF, you're also going to find some tips on how you can just become a better jazz musician. So I'd really recommend that you check that out. So, hello there, my music family and friends. I just wanted to take a quick break from the video, and I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. Now, really quickly, did you know that about 75% of the people that watch my videos are not yet subscribed to this channel? That means there's a chance that you're probably not subscribed either. So if you're not subscribed, please do me a favor and go and click on that subscribe button. That's really going to help me to continue creating content like this and for this channel to do really well. The next thing I wanted to say was, if you are a piano player who's already played and you're probably at an intermediate level, so that means you can play some chords and the inversions, you know your scales, and you can play basic songs in different keys, I've got a jazz program that I'm also running over 90 days that I would like to invite you to, where we're going to learn the basics of jazz piano, chord voicings, jazz tunes, chord progressions, how to improvise, the works. So if this sounds like something that you might be interested in, I am going to put a link in the description below, so please click that link and I will get in touch with you. Okay, so let's jump back into the video. Another good jazz standard to explore for beginners is Blue Bossa, and there's several reasons I like this. So number one is it's in a minor key, and it's in the key of C minor. Okay, so the nice thing about minor is you can explore different types of minor scales and minor chords. So for instance, I can be thinking of a C melodic minor. I can be thinking of C, that's harmonic minor, or I can even be thinking of something like C Dorian. So you can explore all sorts of scales with songs in minor key. I can explore different types of minor chords, like this is C minor 6, C minor 7, or even C minor major 7. Okay, so you really get to experiment with all this. I like that sound. Or okay, so Blue Bossa allows us to really get into that minor sound. But what I also like is that one of the fundamental skills it allows us to explore is the minor 2-5-1. So the 2-5-1 in a minor key. So in this particular instance, we are in the key of C minor. So our 2 would be a D. So we'd play a D half diminished. And these are the notes I'm playing: D, F, A flat, and C. That's our 2 chord. And then our 5 is just G7. Okay. So there's chord 2. There's chord 5. The other cool thing about this is it allows you to alter or to play alterations of chord 5. So this is just G7, G dominant 7. But I mean, I could play my G7 with a flat 9 if I want. There's G7 flat 9. I could play G7 with a sharp 9. I could play my G7 with a sharp 9, even with a sharp 5 if I wanted to. So I can go 2, 5, 1. Ooh, and my 1 chord I've added a 6th there, which is really cool. Okay, so you get to explore different colors and different voicings and actually different scale possibilities from just this one tune. Okay, so, and it's also in C minor, which a number of standards you probably come across a 2-5-1 in the key of C minor a number of times. So, okay, so if I look at measures 5, 6, and 7, basically 5 to 8, that's a 2-5-1 in the key of C minor. Okay, there's to D minor 7 flat 5, to G7, to C minor 6. Oh, the lead sheet even says C minor 6, so that's cool. Right, so let's see if we come across that again. So there's 2-5-1 in the key of C minor, and there it is again, 2-5-1 in the key of C minor. Okay, so in the A section that chord progression already appears twice. Let's go to the B section. Oh, hang on. No, this song is only an A section, right? So, for this lead sheet, it's a particular arrangement. It says played as by Joe Henderson, but other people played in their own way. Okay, so even this bass line here is Joe Henderson. So we can ignore that top line, and we can just focus on this A section, right? I actually like to think of the first 8 measures as the A section, then the next 8 measures as the B section. So the entire form of this piece is A B. So your A section starts with a C minor, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then which is chord 1, right? Then it goes to chord 4, which is F minor 7, 2, 3, 4, and then there's the 2, 5, 1 in the key of C minor. Now the B section is a 2-5-1, but a major 2-5-1 in the key of D flat. So we're going to play E flat minor 7. Okay, so E flat, F sharp, A sharp. In fact, let me call them by flats. E flat, G flat, B flat, D flat, and then A flat 7. That's 5. So here's the 2 chord in the key of D flat. 5. Here's the 5 chord, and then there's the D flat, and I can always jazz things up a little bit if I want. So those measures 9 to 9, 10, 11, 12, 9 to 12, I 2-5-1 progression in the key of D flat major, and then I go back to minor 2-5-1 in the key of C minor. Okay, so this one we could actually say, with the exception of measures 3 and 4, is really, or rather maybe the first 4 measures, these are just 2-5-1s. 2-5-1 over here in the key of C minor, and then 2-5-1 in the key of D flat major. Okay, once you've got that, you've got pretty much the whole song. Okay, so this is what it sounds like. I'm going to play the entire song. 2, 1, 2, 3. And so forth. Again, for improvisation ideas, feel free to check out my free PDF. Another good one to learn is Blue Monk by Thelonious Monk. And the reason it's a good one to learn is because it's a 12-bar blues, and there are thousands, literally thousands of compositions that are just based on this form, the 12-bar blues. I've heard a lot of jazz musicians, and a lot of books even recommend that if you really want to master the language of jazz, well, then just learn the 12-bar blues in all keys, and this is going to cover almost everything that you might come across in your jazz repertoire. So this is a 12-bar blues in the key of B flat. So there are the 12 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The cool thing about it is simple chords. So we basically play dominant 7 chords throughout. So starting on a B flat 7. Okay. So this is chord 1. It goes to chord 4. So you really get good at playing dominant 7 chords and improvising over them. So this F7 here, I think, is just added for color, right? But the basic chord is a B flat there. So you can just play chord 1, then go to E flat. There's an E flat diminished 7th chord there. Okay, so already from this, I'm learning a few things about reharmonizing. So for instance, the idea of moving between chord 1 and 5 in that measure there, that's a cool one. When going from chord 4, instead of me just staying on chord 4, I want to go from chord 4 to chord 1, right? I could always go through the diminished. Okay, so if I go from chord 4, go up a half step and play a diminished 7th chord there, that could work. So I'm going from E flat. If I go half a step up, that's a cool way for me to go to back to chord 1. Okay, so that's a nice harmony lesson there. And there's that chord 1 to back to chord 1, 5, 1. Okay, which you can just do on a chord 1. It's basically a chord 1. That's chord 5. Then we're back to chord. Okay, so I like this because it's basically using your primary chords, chord 1, 4, and 5. But you also learn how to reharmonize, substitute chords, and so forth. So the more you listen to jazz musicians play over the 12-bar blues, you're not only going to learn the different, in fact, you're going to learn their different approaches to the music. What chords do they change? You know, you might hear in a 12-bar blues someone maybe adding some 2-5-1s in there. So I might go that's a 2-5-1, taking me to E flat. You know, I'm now playing a turnaround, which is from chord 1 to chord 6, and then to 2, then 5, then here's a turnaround. This time I played a 3-6-2-5-1. So I'm altering chords even this time. Okay, so 12-bar blues allows you to learn more about harmony and how songs are put together, how you can substitute, how you can reharmonize, but also it allows you to learn different improvisation techniques. So you can use things like a blues scale, for instance. You know, or that's a blues scale. I could be using pentatonic. Okay, so I'm using all sorts of different techniques. I could be using bebop scales. Here's me reharmonizing. Here's a bebop scale. You see there, I'm even adding a bit of a gospel flavor to it. So 12-bar blues gives me the freedom to explore all sorts of techniques, not just in terms of harmony, but in terms of improvisation as well. So just for you to get the feel for Blue Monk, I'm going to play a little bit of it with a backing track. Let's see. 2, 1, 2, 3. Hey. Okay. So a really cool chord progression to learn and have fun with. Another important jazz standard to learn as a beginner is I Got Rhythm, or rhythm changes. So this I Got Rhythm was written by George Gershwin, and it uses a common chord progression known as the turnaround. A turnaround is basically a 1-6-2-5 progression. So I'm going to play a 1-6-2-5 progression in the key of B flat. So here's chord 1, there's chord 6, there's chord 2, then 5. So it's 1, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5. And then there'll be a little bit of a variation there, going from chord 1 to chord 4, which is extremely common. You could even add this, because we learned this from the 12-bar blues, that from chord 4 to 1, we could always add that diminished 7th chord if we want. Okay, so this is us now just playing around. So turn around, 1, 6, 2, 5. Then 1, 2, 4, 1, 6, 2, 5. 1, 6, 2, 5. 1, 6, 2, 5. Then 1, 2, 4. Then 1, 6, 2, 5. Okay. So 1, 6, 2, 5 is the turnaround, but sometimes that one chord is replaced by chord 3, so that it sounds like. So it becomes a 3, 6, 2, 5. Instead of a 1, 6, 2, 5, it's 3, 6, 2, 5. Okay, so those turnarounds are interchangeable. So if we analyze this, this is Anthropology, a melody by Charlie Parker, but the chords are rhythm changes chords. Okay, so if we look at it, you'll see that this right here is just a turnaround, followed by another turnaround, and then chord 1 to 4, and there's a turnaround, 3, 6, 2, 5. That's the A section already. And what we do is we simply repeat that A section. So the form of the piece is A, A. Then it goes to the B section, which also has some very important ingredients. So in the B section, we're playing dominant 7th chords. So starting with a D, D7, we go up a 4th and play G7. We then go up a 4th again to play C7, go up another 4th to play F7. Okay, so this idea of dominant 7th chords going up in 4ths is something that we find in quite a number of jazz standards. So learning I Got Rhythm is going to help you become very comfortable playing all these other standards. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it goes back to the A section, so turnarounds. 1, 4, 1, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. Okay, so I'm gonna mess around a little bit with this, with rhythm changes. Might even play a little bit of this melody actually by Charlie Parker. Right, so here is I Got Rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the reason this chord progression is also very cool, I thought of that as I was playing, is that you really get to explore all sorts of melodic ideas and use of bebop devices, bebop scales, and once you learn this is another tune that people recommend, that if you learn this in every key, if you learn the 12-bar blues in every key, if you learn rhythm changes in every key, you've pretty much got yourself set up to play anything that you might come across. Okay, so definitely worth exploring. Okay, rhythm changes. All right, and now let's get ready for the final song. So the final song I would like to recommend is So What by Miles Davis. There's a number of reasons I like this song for beginners. Number one, it introduces us to the world of modal jazz, and we use this mode known as the Dorian. It's basically 2 chords throughout the entire piece. So the main chord is D minor, so there's a D minor 7, and we play over D minor 7 for 16 measures or 16 bars. So while the D minor is playing, we play the D Dorian mode. That D Dorian is basically all the white keys from D to D. Okay, and another way to think of that D Dorian is, well, it's the second mode of the C major scale. So this is C major. If we play the same notes but starting on the 2nd degree of the scale, that's D Dorian. So that's the mode that we can use. So we can use those notes over a D minor 7 chord. So we've got that chord, that one chord for 16 measures, and then for the next 8 bars we go to E flat minor 7. So over that E flat minor 7 we can play an E flat Dorian, and E flat is found on the 2nd degree of D flat. So here's your D flat major scale. So if I start on the 2nd degree, okay, a cool thing as well, based on what I've just done there, is you can play these little patterns. Okay, so you can experiment with things like that. Take a little motif, develop it, turn it into a sequence. But what's also nice is that because it's one chord and not necessarily a chord progression, we can actually think about some important things and develop these important things such as rhythm. So I'm not thinking about chords because it's one chord, right? So I could even say something like ti ta ta ta, and then pick any note from my Dorian mode and just go ta ba do do ta ti ga da da ti da 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 ti da da da. Okay, so you can actually play more melodically and develop your sense of melodic playing because you've got enough time to think about things such as rhythm, because usually we are thinking about chords, but there are no chords to think of. So that's a really cool problem to have. So another reason So What is such a cool song is it allows us to explore certain things, say, for instance, left-hand voicings, such as fourths. And a fourth is basically when you play any note, go up a perfect fourth, and then go up a perfect fourth again. So, like that's a fourth chord. I've started on D. I could do the same, starting on E. Actually, it doesn't even have to be a perfect fourth necessarily. It can just be a fourth, but based on that Dorian mode. So I could play. All those will work while I'm playing D. So those voicings sound really cool in the left hand. But not only the fourth voicing, but even the original voicing that Bill Evans played on So What, on that album Kind of Blue. That was the bass melody, and then Bill played. The cool thing about this voicing is it's a fourth, there's a fourth, and on top of that is another fourth, followed by a third. So it's actually a 5-note voicing, which you can move around. Okay, so I want to see what I can come up with here. Maybe using some of these fourths, some of these So What voicings, and definitely the Dorian mode. And when I go to E flat, I'm going to do the same. Okay, so E flat, simple because it's mostly black keys, plus the F plus the C. Okay, so let me play that with the backing track and just have fun with So What. Okay, so here it is. 1, 2, da 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 da. Back to D, right? So possibilities are endless when it comes to things that you can do on these Dorian modes. And So What gives you an opportunity to explore that, prepares you to play other modal songs later on. So you might start playing. Okay, and explore modal playing, or both those songs are by Herbie Hancock, but basically a lot of music from the 60s you could explore once you've learned So What. So there you have it. Those are the 5 jazz standards that I recommend for beginner jazz pianists. And let's just quickly summarize what those songs are and why we learn them. So number 1, we had Autumn Leaves because it teaches us the major 2-5-1 progression and the minor 2-5-1 progression. Then we had Blue Bossa because number 1, it's in a minor key and it taught us how to play a bossa nova. Also has a 2-5-1, but we can explore all these different minor chord qualities, even altered dominant chords. And then we also had Blue Monk, and the reason this is so cool is because it's a blues. It teaches us how to play a 12-bar blues, preparing us for thousands of songs, and it helps us to just learn the blues language and how to improvise over dominant 7th chords, how to substitute chords, how to reharmonize. And then we also learned I Got Rhythm, which has the popular chord progression, which is the turnaround, 1-6-2-5 or 3-6-2-5. Okay. And it's also got a very interesting bridge, which we come across in various other songs where your dominant 7th chord goes up in fourths. Okay. This song is also very good for teaching us the bebop language. And then finally, we explored So What, which introduced us to modal music, which is more modern jazz language, I guess. So it taught us how to play using the Dorian mode. It taught us how to think about rhythm, more advanced voicing such as fourths, and even the use of pentatonic scales. Okay, so that's really cool. So working through these 5 songs will give you a really solid foundation to explore other jazz songs and just to develop your jazz vocabulary and knowledge. So if you want to go further, I've prepared a PDF for you where I give you 10 steps on how you can become a better jazz musician. In addition to these steps, you also find some jazz vocabulary in there. So I'll give you some phrases to play over various types of 2-5-1 progressions, major 2-5-1s progressions, minor 2-5-1s, and also progressions of varying length. So it might be a 2-bar phrase, it might be a 4-bar phrase. So if you're interested in that, please make sure that you download the PDF. And if you want even more tailored teaching so that you achieve your goals faster, you are welcome to check out. I'm going to put a link to my website and my coaching program where we can work on things that will really develop your knowledge of jazz piano, even if you're just starting from scratch. So guys, if you enjoy this material that I'm sharing online, please feel free to subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Let me know what other songs you recommend, or what songs did you learn as a jazz beginner? What songs do you think are easily accessible for a beginner? Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be these 5. These are just my recommendations. So please do let me know in the comments. And if you've got any questions, also please let me know in that comment section. Give me a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next video.